Welcome to Storytime with Tallulah. Today's reading comes from r/MaliciousCompliance. Our first story is titled, New Owner Wants Us to Carry Garbage Bags Through a Crowded Restaurant. Okay, you're the boss. This is another story about my bartending days, and I'll preface by saying, even though it got my point across, not then, nor do I now feel good about what happened here. So, slight backstory. I was working as a bar manager in a student pub. The new owner and I hated each other. It was actually scary just how deep that hatred ran. However, I was his fastest bartender and simply too popular amongst the other employees to just fire. So instead, he would always belittle me in front of clients or other staff members and find ways to make my job more insufferable. I'm guessing in hopes that I would simply quit. So the bar was at the front of the store. The exit was right by the front entrance, which led through a caged-off alley, which led to the alley where we dumped all the garbage from the bar and restaurant. We had always carried the refuge out that way. It was easy, effective, and we didn't have to walk through the restaurant carrying garbage bags. So obviously, the new owner made the rational decision to start locking that way off and forbidding us from using it. This meant we now had to walk through the restaurant where people were eating, up a mini stairwell, and through the kitchen. I don't even know how many health and safety regulations this was violating. I had protested this at several staff meetings, explaining to him that us not being allowed to go that way doubled the trip, which left the bar a man short for double the time. It was also double the time for the bags to tear, considering they were usually filled with heavy and sometimes broken bottles, and mostly it was just unsanitary walking through the restaurant and kitchen with bags that were usually dripping fluids. So obviously he refused and said we will continue doing it his way. Cut forward a few nights later and the place was packed, likely to overcapacity, but for in case it wasn't clear, safety concerns weren't much of a priority for this twat. I should also point out that the bar only had one garbage bin, which had filled up several beer bottles ago. The other bartenders had been ignoring it because if you're carrying out garbage bags, then you're not serving customers, and if you're not serving customers, you're not making tips. So I decided to take this task upon myself and to venture out of the bar. I felt like Frodo carrying the ring to Mordor. As I mentioned, the bag was already over its recommended weight capacity, so I had to get through this crowd fast because I could feel it was going to tear quickly. Some of the glass had broken inside the bag too, and had started cutting into me as I tried carrying the bag from the bottom to keep it from tearing open, all while fighting my way through a crowd of drunk students. I finally made it to the mini stairwell by the kitchen where the drunk owner and a random drunk girl was sitting on the stairs. The bag was now super close to tearing and my hands were covered in blood from getting cut by the glass. I tried getting the stupid boss's attention, begging him to move so I could get past. The boss ignored me. I'll say that the first time it was entirely possible that he may not have heard me over the crowd and the loud music. So I tried again. This time he looked straight at me and then continued to ignore me anyway. Cue the malicious compliance as I lifted the bag right over him and the girl just for it to tear open right above them, drowning them both in dripping bottles of beer and pieces of shattered glass. I felt bad for the girl. She had not deserved this. As for the owner, screw him. The kitchen staff had heard the crash and screams and ran out to clean the mess. I tried helping, but they told me to go back to the bar. A few seconds later, the owner came storming into the bar, screaming at me and asking me what possessed me to try and lift a garbage bag over the head of him and a customer. I innocently said that I wouldn't have had to if he had just let us go through the alley. The owner gave me the biggest death glare I had ever gotten, then took the alley key off his keyring, threw it at me, and stormed out of the bar. So even though I had been forced to cover a girl in glass to get my point across, I still walked out of this battle victorious. Just to add, this happened back in 2008, and I haven't bartended since 2009. I just enjoy recalling these stories because of how absurd that place was, but unfortunately, I won't be able to use any of the advice anymore on how I could rectify this. For those of you upset about me endangering the girl, I agree. I think I literally said that in the first sentence of the story that I felt bad about it, and I still do to this day. But she wasn't injured. Neither was my stupid boss, unfortunately, and this was 12 years ago. I was a barely older than 19, and we all did things in our younger years that we weren't proud of. Lastly, it actually just annoys me that I have to add this, but I am not from the US. The legal drinking age in my country is 18, not 21. Therefore, I was legally allowed to serve alcohol before turning 21. Well, I mean, yeah, it sounds like your boss is a turd, and I'm glad nobody got hurt, because that sounds very, very dangerous. Our next story is titled, If You Don't Like It, Quit. Message received loud and clear. I initially posted this story on r/tales from your server. I think it fits better here, and I've included more information for story cohesion. I'm a pasty white Caucasian guy. I pretty much look ginger, but I'm not a redhead. This is relevant to the story. For almost 8 years, I worked at a popular US chain restaurant which specializes in breakfast food that may or may not heavily feature various flavors of pancakes. Over time, several managers came and went, but the one who stuck around was the ladder-climbing, brown-nosing general manager whom we will call Hope, a narcissistic, verbally abusive, control freak, mommy dearest knockoff. Hope had the most grandiose opinion of herself. She had a way of making please and thank you sound like screw you. I did my best to get along with her, although when dealing with someone who thrives on conflict, the best often isn't enough. She made it clear it was her way or the highway. Her oft-spouted catchphrase was, "If you don't like the way I run my store, quit." Among Hope's countless trademark annoying traits included breathing, coming into work wasted, and talking smack about everyone to guests and staff alike. She often delivered instructions orders without allowing any responses, then concluded those interactions with okay. As if that couldn't get any more obnoxious, her faux sincerity was almost always accompanied by an ongoing crypt keeper cackle. Then she'd roll her crap brown eyes, toss her moose brown hair over her shoulder, and walk away. Funny story, one Christmas, I was unlucky enough to draw Hope's name for the Secret Santa gift exchange. I seriously considered buying her a batch of wire hangers with a card simply saying, "No wire hangers ever." I decided against it for the simple reason that it was no secret that I did not like her. It would have been totally obvious who bought her the gag gift. I was one of those highly valued employees, but the way I was treated completely belied the compliments and accolades I received, i.e., my schedule being flipped without my consent, day off requests being denied, while other employees, mostly older married women and single mothers of small children, as well as Hope's drinking buddies, got preferential treatment, always taking the side of the guests when they were angling for a free meal, etc. Perhaps the worst was the bullying and pettiness among certain employees. It was like high school. It got to the point that I flat out refused to exchange numbers with or add any coworkers on social media. It was a rule that I stood by for a very long time. Don't mix business with personal. I've somewhat relaxed that regulation, but for the most part, it's still in place. Once another employee poked me in the face with a tampon right in front of Hope and Sunny, the drunken assistant manager. I filed an official complaint and nothing came of it. This is one such occasion where they couldn't claim ignorance. My complaint made it real and they had to address it. Address it they did. They saw me as a whistleblower. Neither Hope nor Sunny could have cared less about staff morale. It was typical of both those embittered hags to accept hearsay as fact. They rarely did their diligence in getting both sides before plotting a course of action. Oh, and plot they did. Unfortunately, the following shows they responded to my complaint to workplace bullying with malicious intent. It was at this point I began receiving customer complaints. Most of the time, Hope and Sunny would take the word of the so-called customer or the server passing on the complaint without offering up any proof a discrepancy had even occurred. I later came to learn the complaints were completely fabricated. It was really a coworker just trying to stir the pot. This whole horror story came to its climax when a cokehead, now former employee, circulated a rumor that I refused to wait on an elderly African-American military veteran because I was a racist. Being one myself, I respect all veterans. I found it alarmingly laughable at best because 1, I am a very gay man, and 2, most of my boyfriends haven't been white. Heck, everyone including Hope and Sunny met my Brazilian ex-boyfriend who looked black when he had previously popped in for Sunday brunch. So you can understand why this accusation was out of character and completely out of the blue. It reeked of sabotage. It was too outlandish to be anything else. So the write-up came. I was absolutely furious as my suspicions that I had been set up were confirmed. Both Hope and Sunny would not let me get a word in. I finally got their attention by stating in a raised voice that I had a right to have my say. Surprised at my assertiveness, both went slit-eyed and rather smugly said, Go on. I pointed out to them that all of my guests love me. Several of my regulars are Hispanic or African American, and in nearly 8 years of employment, never once had I been accused of being prejudiced or bigoted. I also pointed out that one of my regulars, a married female African American doctor, if my hands were free, would run up to me, give me a big hug, kiss me on the cheek, and hold me so tight I felt like I was being suffocated. Hope and Sunny were having none of it. I also pointed out that the drama-starting liar who filed the complaint against me had been fired because she was caught by Hope snorting cocaine in the ladies' room. Given her predisposition to lie, the validity of her accusations should be questioned and the write-up destroyed. Based off of their surprised expressions, it was clear I had exposed their complicitness in creating a hostile work environment, but they refused to take the bait. Completely done with it all, I flat out bellowed, "I am not, nor have I ever been, a racist." I'm pretty sure the entire store heard me. Then I went for the zinger that lingers. "You have no idea how many black men have been in my bed." You could have heard a pin drop. Diamanda, the Creole prep cook, was walking by the open office door when I let out that line, and she nearly doubled over with laughter. There were 2 training managers facing away from us while they were on the computer doing online courses. They almost collapsed onto the keyboard, then turned around looking at me with shocked expressions on their faces. Sunny's face went beet red. Hope's face turned white and her eyes widened. "You know what, Hope? Remember how you said if I didn't like the way you ran things I should quit? Goodbye." I didn't give them a chance to respond. My shift was about to start in less than 7 minutes. I took off my key fob, laid it on the safe, emptied my apron, put everything in a takeout bag, did an about face, and walked out, echoing, "Have fun trying to cover my shifts." It was exhilarating and liberating all at the same time. It was like the end of Private Benjamin when Goldie Hawn walked out of her wedding and threw away her veil, except I never worn a dress. Just kidding, yes I have. Aside from returning 2 weeks later to get my final paycheck, I haven't set foot in there. I have no reason to go back. I have a new job at a wonderful company with great bosses that value me as an employee and as a person. I actually look forward to going to work now. I never thought that was possible. Double plus, they don't expect me to be an emotionless robot. Edit. For those of you who are triggered and declaring that I could still be a racist or that my attraction to ethnic men is just a fetish, tell that to my boyfriend and kindly F in the direction of off. Save your race card pulling unintelligible psychobabble for someone without a brain. We all bleed red. It's people like you and my former witch boss who create the problems in this world. You got them! Nothing worse than being treated unfairly at the workplace and then having lies and all sorts of conspiracies conspire to get you in trouble. That sounds like a lawsuit, my friend. I wonder if there's, yeah, that sounds like a lawsuit. Anyways, glad you're at a new place and you're being respected. That's all that matters. Yeah, that you don't want to work at a place like that. That sounds extremely toxic and a hostile work environment, although you already know that. Anyways, well, that's it for today. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. And if you enjoy these types of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the bell for notifications so you know when more videos come out. If you'd like to join the Discord, we have an amazing community. The link for that is in the description below, along with all of my other social media links if you'd like to follow me on different places on the internet as well. Thank you all for your continued support. It really means a lot, and I hope you're staying safe out there in these crazy times, because they are kind of crazy. But anyways, hopefully these videos help and, you know, they add some value to where you're able to stay entertained if you're locked at home, and I'll keep putting them out for you. Anyways, thank you all, and with that being said, we'll see you next time. Thank you.